snow. And that used to be crawling with rabbits down there, so there hasn't been a rabbit down there in years. So what happened to the rabbits?
I don't know, I can't speak to rabbit habitat, ma'am, but I do know it seems like a lot of people like to fish right next to the plant.
And you go down by the river and it's all black too. You go in the summer like this on a leaf, the fingers are black.
And you're convinced that that's coming from residue from the plant?
Yes, I do.
I know my boat was.
And you
I
can
didn't have
see
it
it
when I
on the
parked in
railroad
Barrett.
tracks. The snow machine trail, last spring, it was just like somebody put a layer of blacktop. It was so black. And you go on the hillside by BHK, and the snow is just black. And I hang clothes outside, I have to wipe my clotheslines every time because they're just black.
And where do you live, ma'am?
Barrett Avenue.
Barrett Avenue.
Well, I think what needs to be done is they need to take a sample of what you're alluding to and run a test on it and see what it is.
Well, I think you should stop burning guys. That's
Well,
my
that's a
opinion.
natural gas.
You're entitled to that opinion.
Well, that's my opinion.
That's fine. If you'd like to, buy the plant and shut it down, you're more than welcome to do so. It's for sale.
No, I'm not willing to buy the plant.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to address an issue. I was at waterfront concerts last July, 2 waterfront concerts, and it was a beautiful night, a beautiful band, the lake was beautiful, but we had this acrid, toxic smell over the whole crowd of about 100 people. And I sat there through 2 concerts like that, and finally I tried to find a number to call you. But I looked through the phone book for Steve Walsh, for Warden plant, I even called the village office and no one had his number. And so
Did
as
you
a
look on the
group,
sign, ma'am, in front?
I wasn't down at the
Oh, okay.
plant. I was at the
It's
waterfront.
prominently displayed on the sign.
So then our group, and I'm a member of it, made up these signs with the DEQ and the EPA number for people to call because we were unable to access your number. I didn't look at the plant. And we had these up in town for people to call if they hear or smell or see any pollution.
Thanks, Brad. Dr. Ripple?
Well, there's been a lot of rhetoric about the plan, and I think that the elephant in the room in this community, when you discuss this, is always the jobs that are here and could be lost, or at least that's become an issue in the past few weeks. Nonetheless, from the time that plant opened, and I found out they were burning creosote impregnated railroad ties, I've been in contact with the EPA because there is no country in the world, I don't think, that allows the burning of railroad ties. In some states, it's banned permanently. In New York, they passed laws in 2008 that prohibits the use of creosote in any form except in about 3 very specified areas. Creosote is a coal tar derivative. And as a coal tar derivative, it is a carcinogenic. Now, we don't know what's coming out of that stack in terms of potential hazard, and I asked the board, until such time as it's proven safe, that they indulge us in terms of our concern for the health of the community. I'm not opposed to the jobs. I am opposed to a health hazard that might have long-term effects. Now, the fugitive dust is visible. There are other things that are not visible that can be equally harmful. And I'm not sure there aren't things emanating from that stack that should be known to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
If I may address Dr. Whipple's comments, Doctor, I am committed to, once we run our next stack evaluation, to personally give you a copy of the task admission. Would that satisfy your
I'd like
concerns,
to see
sir?
it, sure.
So let the record show that I will provide Dr. Whipple, as soon as we get our stack admission test done, and we should probably get one done in about 45 days, I will provide Dr. Whipple a copy of the exact test. That will also, in case you haven't figured out, the EPA has now set up a website just for LANSE Warden, and it has every notice of violation and every complaint listed on there, for those of you that are interested in looking for winners.
Anybody else have a question?
What?
Yes.
I have a question. The EPA sent you a violation on the pollution of dust and directed you to install air monitoring equipment. Has this been done?
DEQ. You need to get your facts straight, Catherine. DEQ, notice of violation, fugitive dust. The EPA sends out 114 letters. They're two separate things,
EPA.
okay?
And that was directing you to install air monitoring equipment, and I wonder.
We are in negotiations with them
You're
on that point.
negotiating air monitoring equipment. Why are you negotiating?
Because that's the way the system works.
If you get a directive to do something,
That's
why
the
do
way
you,
the system
why do you come
works.
back with a different plan than they're asking you to do?
We
Why
are,
don't you accept their plan? Because the longer you wait, the more harm is being done to people in our community.
well, why is it that all of a sudden since September, you and national organizations have now made LANSE Warden a poster child? Why is it that from 1971
That's
till
an
1994, it never had any complaints
You
when
know
it was a
what?
coal
We're
plant?
concerned
Why is
about
it
what's
now,
happening right
only
now.
since September, Catherine? Is it perhaps you have another agenda?
You haven't been burning railroad
That's an
ties.
We've been wording ties, sir, since 2008.
Excuse me, we're not gonna have cross hollering back and forth, so people have to listen to them one at a time. We're not gonna get into a picnic session here. Mr. Evans?
Well, you went back to 1971, when you just made a statement. Why has nobody complained since 1971? Well, I just told you, they didn't burn railroad ties
burned
back
coal.
in 71.
We burned coal.
Okay, well, this is the issue we have. I live right at the top of the hill. I am eye level with the smokestack from the Warden plant. I check it every day to see which way the wind's blowing.
As do I.
It bothers me. I have to keep my front door closed in the summertime because of the smell. I can't handle it. I get headaches now. I've been getting headaches for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm trying to make a correlation. You say that it has nothing to do with railroad ties. There's been no complaints since 1971. Well, you didn't burn railroad ties in 71.
That's correct.
So correct yourself.
We have not burned railroad ties in
Well,
71.
why didn't you
We
say
burned
that?
coal. We burned coal.
Well, you
which
didn't.
is, I think everyone is in agreement that a coal plant is a much higher polluter than burning
It's not the
railroad
same.
ties. Understand, but that's the note.
Mr. Goodrow?
Yeah, you said you assumed that they got rid of them ties up there, did they or didn't they?
They did.
Where did they get rid of them to?
Took them to a landfill.
What landfill?
I do not know.
You don't know, with the price of $115 a ton, you don't know?
I'm not
You
required to
know if you
know.
got the bill.
No, I'm not.
You should know.
No, because they don't belong to me. The ties do not belong to me
Well,
until they
what's the
get
rate of
ground.
breakdown on that?
They get ground and moved across the belt. That's when I pay for them. Up until that time, I don't own them.
Well, who does own them?
MA, our fuel contractor up there. It's their property. I don't pay for them until they're
They
ground and
all
moved
do it
across.
themselves.
And if they don't meet our spec, I don't pay for them. They don't send them to me because I don't pay for them.
In other words, you let DEQ or that go in there and take a test on the ties?
They've already done that.
They did?
Yes.
When?
I can't tell you when. They have.
When?
I would just like to add that I personally have made numerous complaints over the last 5 years to the DEQ, and on, I think, 1 or 2 occasions, they even did visit the site, and they said everything was fine. But I don't know why they didn't have those in their files. I personally made the complaints. Also, I would like to bring up a little history. When the plant was converted in 2008, I had several calls from people that were concerned because we had people in town working on the plant that could not speak English. And our unemployment at that time was very, very high. I think we were the highest in the state. It was during the recession. And they were concerned that people locally were not being employed, pipe fitters or whatever. And so I called immigration and the Sioux, and they scheduled a raid up here, okay? But before they, and I told them I found out where the workers lived, didn't speak English, didn't have credentials that I knew of, and where they slept. Well, the immigration called the company in Tennessee before they made the raid, and so all the workers disappeared. As far as I know, that's what I was told. So that, that to me speaks to the concern of the company for the well-being of the community, that they would employ uncredentialed, uncertified, unvisaed workers that disappear when immigration is called.
Yes, sir.
At that time, there was multiple non-county workers in the area, and all the workers that were employed by the steam system controls out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, were documented American workers. There was some trouble with some other individuals that was fighting, and there was some police reports that came about. None of those individuals were working at the plant. And one thing Franny didn't mention was she has an agenda with that through her business agent.
No, it wasn't him that complained, it was other people that called me.
Agree to disagree. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Just a short comment there. I really have trouble with the word negotiate. I mean, it's either good or it's bad. And then to say that, another test is going to take 45 days. Well, they canceled it back in December, the public comment. Are they just going to keep moving it up, kicking the can down the road? That's what I have issue with. And if they're going to continue to do that, then I think they must stop burning the railroad ties. It's simple. And we'll see where we're at after that. If they can't run the plant because it's not hot enough, they use that creosote to bring the temperature of the fire up. Well, I just say we need a little bit more research before we can just let them continue to keep burning railroad ties and kicking the can down the road.
Why do you have to sign a confidential agreement to get a job when you're hired?
Most places that I've ever worked, sir,
I've never had.
okay, well, perhaps we've worked in different places, but,
And I worked for a big mining company.
I understand. But we have an employee agreement that requires a confidentiality agreement. And that's pretty standard in most places that I've worked. But I don't know how that is germane to the issue at hand.
Yes, ma'am.
We own a large commercial building downtown, it's right off of Barragod. We can deal with the soot and the particulates that come out of the stack, but on a south wind day during the summertime, we have to shut all of our windows. We can't breathe. We've come down the hill on Barragod before with our windows open in our vehicles and been completely burned. Our face, our skin, we felt it in our eyes, couldn't breathe. So there's something coming out of the stack you can't see, and it didn't really have a smell, but we could just absolutely feel it hit us. So when that south wind is blowing, I don't think you're gonna find anybody in LANSE downtown on a hot summer's day that's not gonna feel or breathe or notice what's coming out of the stack. This has nothing to do with the particulates. It's fumes, some kind of caustic fumes that are coming out. So, but it's so bad we have to shut all of our windows and everything. So the south wind, forget it, LANSE is covered. Something's coming out.
My name is Frank Cole. I have a couple questions. One is, it's my understanding that there's been some delay in getting this consent agreement in place for the permit. I was wondering if you might address what the holdup is and what Warden is doing to get this in place as quickly as possible. My second is that, maybe I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the stack testing done by DEQ is not according to protocol. Therefore, it can't be considered of value to get used. Why would Warden not go ahead and allow testing that would comply with protocol so that this community could be assured that what's coming out of the stack is safe?
I'll answer your questions. I'll address the last one first, if I may. DEQ, EPA, they don't do any stack testing. They direct it. We don't do it ourselves. We hire a third-party contractor to do it. We are required, for renewal of our permit every 5 years for renewal of our air permit to do a stack test. We did that in September. We tested for a variety of materials that we were supposed to look for, and all of them were orders of magnitude below our operating permit, with the exception of chlorides. And that was almost double, which surprised us. We suspected that was coming from a large concentration of pentachloride ties, which are high in chlorides themselves. And we pulled those once we got the results back, we pulled those immediately out of the mix and scheduled testing again. The DEQ was on site and was aware the day prior of our testing when we ran our testing in November. They were on site. Ed Lancaster was sitting in the room. Now, he admitted as of Friday in the open press that yes, we are in fact in compliance. However, that because the protocol, they weren't given enough lead time, he questions that, well, yeah, you're in compliance, but we're going to have you test again. We will undoubtedly test again within 45 days. Not only will we test for everything that's in our permit, we're going to test for other things that aren't in our permit, which is fine. Again, it's important to understand that LANSE Warden, we get a fixed price for our energy that we produce. We're not like a utility that everything that all legal bills, compliance testing gets rolled into to the ratepayer. That doesn't happen with LANSE Warden. We have a fixed price. And I hope everyone understands the difference. UPCO, for example, if they have to go and spend $500,000 in legal bills, the consumers pay for that. That gets put in the rate base and goes right to the consumers. That's how it's set up under a regulated utility. You can agree with it or not, but that's kind of the way the system works. LANSE Warden is an independent power producer. I get paid a fixed flat rate for the power that I produce under Michigan law to provide to DTE. So my costs continue to escalate. Eventually I'll get to a break-even point where I can no longer operate the plant simply because I'm overwhelmed with costs that I have to absorb myself. Since the plant was established in 2008, how much money do you think has been dividended out from the LANSE Warden plant back to the owners? Anybody have an idea?
Not our concern.
Of course not, but it's zero. All the money that LANSE Warden makes stays right here in the community. Every last nickel. Now again, there are some people that disagree with it, but to answer your question, within 45 days I expect that we will have an approved protocol with the EPA and the DEQ signing off, and that I hope that they're there on site to actually watch the test. We'll have a real-time monitoring. So, and then, as I promised Dr. Whipple, I will personally provide him a copy of that test.
Well, if I might, so you're saying your answer is then there has not been a test. That's been in compliance with protocol since last September.
No, we followed the exact test that we always do. Last November, DEQ was on site. We followed the exact, whether they choose to say it's not in compliance, again, as of last Friday in the Mining Gazette, you can check it, Ed Lancaster says, yes, we are in compliance. So I defer to Mr. Lancaster, who's with the DEQ.
I don't mean to split hairs, sir, but he said at the same time that test didn't follow protocol, and that was the question, and that's my question.
I think it did, and he was there. So.
You say he didn't get there in time, or they didn't have enough lead time?
He was there the entire day. He watched multiple tests the entire day.
I thought I heard you say that they didn't have enough lead time to get there to
We gave him notice the day prior. They want to know 10 days ahead of time that we're running a test.
And that's your responsibility?
I don't know if it's my responsibility or not. We wanted to test immediately to ensure that what we felt was the issue, the pentachloride ties being that's what we really wanted to get to. And we had to run a test to prove that. But our tests, again, the original test in September, the only thing that was out of compliance was the chloride. We took the chloride out of the mix, we rescheduled another test, we ran the test, and we proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that we were back in compliance as it related to chlorides. There was never an issue on other materials.
Sir, if you're running a regulated business, and all businesses are regulated,
To some degree, yes.
it's your responsibility to make sure that you're in compliance, and if you need people to be there to see if you are in compliance, be it the DEQ or otherwise, isn't that your responsibility?
My responsibility is to inform them, which I feel is an adequate amount of time, and certainly to invite them on site. Again, I point back, they have been on site 17 times since last September. So to say that we're not getting sufficient oversight compared to the other 6 biomass plants in the state of Michigan, of which 2 others also burn railroad ties, which Dr. Whipple may find shocking, but it is true. I think we're getting pretty good oversight now.
And what's the holdup for getting this permit in place, and what are you doing to get it?
The way the
Excuse me again,
Go ahead.
as expeditiously as possible.
Well, what we want to do is make sure that we get everything correct. So we are working with both the DEQ and the EPA to get through to ensure that the consent order for us to get the permit, hopefully eventually renewed, is in fact complete. To do that, it requires us to do a variety of things that we are working with the DEQ to address the issues that have been brought up in the last 6 months. Unfortunately, it takes time, but nobody more than myself certainly wants this issue resolved so we can continue to move forward. That said, I would be naive to think there are not people in this community who, no matter what we do, no matter what we say, will not be satisfied until LANSE Warden plant is knocked to the ground and completely removed. No matter what we do. I understand that.
I can't speak for the whole community, but if I go into a restaurant that has permitting requirements under state law, I want to make sure my food's safe. If I go to a
Absolutely.
hospital and it's running under permitting obligations and regulation by the state, I want to be sure I'm safe there.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's any different with Warden. I don't think people want it out of business. They just want to know that it's operating in accordance with law and people are safe.
And that's what we're working to. And again, we hope we can get through this. There will be a public comment period. Certainly, most everyone that is of interest will attend. That's great. So we want to move the process.
Discounting the burning of